Okay, so I really went for it with the sun theme. I'm going to show you guys right here, this shirt. It's a sun. I went for the theme. It's kind of like a cracked out looking sun. This is not my shirt. It was my boyfriend's shirt, and before that it was his best friend's shirt. So he stole it from his best friend, and then I stole it from him, and yeah, now I have this shirt and I like it. It kind of has a weird cracked out sun on it, but you know what? It's a cool shirt. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Amaya. So today's video I am super excited to do because we are going to be doing a review slash tutorial on the new Colourpop Lil Ray of Sunshine collection. This is the Sunflower palette and the two Super Shock shadows that they released in their newest collection. I bought this very soon after it released because I was just so excited for it and I really wanted to try it out. I've used this palette and these eyeshadows several times, so I'm going to be giving you guys my review today, as well as a tutorial for the look that I am wearing right now. And we are actually going to hop right into that, and then we're going to come back and do the review portion. So I'm going to get started doing that using the e.l.f. Putty Primer right here. This is my favorite eyeshadow primer at the moment, and I'm just going to apply this to my eye with a brush. Okay, just zoomed it out. I felt like we were a little close, so just going to zoom it out a little bit so that way you can see, but you're not all up in my grill, you know. So here is our lovely palette, and the first shade I'm going to go in with is this one right here, and it is called Happy Place. And I am just going to buff this into my crease and make sure that it kind of ends up everywhere but nice and buffed. This is a really nice light yellow transition shade, which I think is really interesting because you don't usually see a lot of light yellow transition shades. I feel like everything is usually more orangey or more neutral, so I like having a nice yellowy transition shade. Okay, so the next shade I'm going to go in with is this one right here. It's called Vitamin D. And this is kind of more like a taupey yellow color. It's actually lighter than the first color that we used. And I'm just going to use this to kind of buff out that yellowy transition shade that we used and make sure that everything is nice and smooth. This is kind of a trick that I like doing, going over my transition shade with an even lighter shade. I feel as though it just kind of helps buff everything out and look really seamless. Okay, so the next shade I'm going to be going in with is this one right here, which is called Sunnies. This is the most true yellow shade in this palette. And I'm going to take this on a little bit more of a pointed, more precise blending brush, and I'm going to start packing that into the crease. I feel like sometimes yellows are really hard because they can come off really powdery, but I mean, you can see this one is pretty true to color. Like, it's a true yellow, which I appreciate, of course, because if you're gonna give me a yellow, give me a yellow. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with this reddish brownish shade right here, and this is called Chillin'. So it's gonna take a smaller, more pointed brush this time and start kind of patting this into my crease area. I just want to show you guys something real quick. So this palette does kick up some dust, which you can see. I don't personally mind that, but if that's something that you don't like, that is something to be aware of. But I don't feel like I get any fallout with the shadows, so. And I'm just kind of buffing this into the crease. This is kind of setting the stage for the last color. I am going to go back in with that brush that I used for the yellow shade with no additional product on it and just buff everything out. And now I'm going in with this dark brown shade right here, which is called Sun Giant. And I'm just going to be taking a little pencil brush and dipping that in. And I'm going to start carefully buffing that into the crease to kind of deepen it up. I really like this brown color because I feel like it's not too warm, not too neutral, just a nice in-between. Then I'm just going back in with that brush we used for the reddish shade and just buffing everything out. And then going back with the brush that we used for the yellow shade as well. I'm actually going to go back in with a little bit more of that yellow shade because I want that to peek out from the top of the crease a little bit more. I'm going to be going in with the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow. It's an ultra metallic finish and it's in the shade Harmony. I'm actually just going to take this on my finger and sweep this across the lid carefully. And I'm not bringing it too far up to the crease, so I don't want things to get too muddy. I'm going to take some of that on a flat brush and just use that to get a little bit closer to that crease line. And then I'm going to go back in with the pencil brush and no additional product and just kind of buff everything out and make sure that that brown line, that brown definition is still visible. Actually, I take that back. I am going to go in with a little bit more brown just because I feel like I got a little bit of the sparkle up a little too high. So I'm just lightly patting that. Okay, now I'm going to go in with the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow. This is also an ultra metallic in the shade Flower Child. And I'm going to take this on my pinky and pop it right in the center right here. It's going to give the eye kind of like a wet, glossy, shiny look. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit more of In Harmony and just kind of blend that with my finger. Okay, and now for the lower lash line, I'm just going to repeat the entire process that I did on the top to the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to go in with this shade right down here. It's a white cream in the shade Sun's Out for my inner corner. I kind of like the idea of like a matte white highlight on the inner corner for this look. I don't know why. I think it's because we have so much glitter going on the lid and so much shine. Alright, I'm just going to go pop on some lashes and then we will get to the review portion of this video. So this palette right here is one of Colourpop's 9-pan palettes and it retails for $14 on Colourpop's website. The thing that is super unique about this one is that it's an all matte palette, which is something that Colourpop doesn't usually do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be the first time that they've actually done it. And then these Super Shock shadows right here retail for $6 each, and they are in the ultra metallic formula. So first let's talk about this palette, okay, because I think that this color story is so pretty. First of all, I like that there is a nice range of shades here. I feel like the yellow in here is a nice pop. I like that they did put a true yellow in here, but I also like the variations that they have on yellow here, such as this kind of light buttery shade right here, this more like green, pukey kind of color right here, and then they also have a nice kind of typical brown color, but it has a yellow undertone to it. So I like that they incorporated yellow into a lot of different parts of this palette without it being just a straight yellow palette. I also think that the two colors that they put right here, these darker colors, really complement the rest of these shades well. This one being definitely a true kind of like, it's kind of like a brick red brown, and then this guy right here being a nice warm slash neutral brown. It's actually a really, really nice brown color. I think it's probably one of my favorite browns that I have in my collection. So I really like the mix of shadows in here. I do like that they went for an all matte palette. I think that's something really versatile and really different for Colourpop, and I think it gave them an opportunity to really create some cool matte shades within this palette. Overall, when I think of a sunflower or a sunflower palette, this is definitely what I would think of. I think that you have kind of all the shades of a sunflower right here. You have the brown, you have the yellows, you have the mid-tone browns, you have a little bit of that red even. I think it all goes together really well and sticks to the theme while also being a palette that you don't see every day, because it is a more boring slash wearable palette, if you will. I also like the packaging. It's super cute with all the sunflowers. All the shade names are on the back as well as inside the palette, and they are actually kind of like this raised embossed type of lettering, which I think is really, really cool. As for the Super Shock shadows, there are two of them, like I said. The first one is In Harmony, which is just a really nice true golden yellow. If you want a yellowy gold that is just gonna punch you right in the face, like a 24 karat yellow gold, this is it. It's really pretty, very sparkly, but it's not just an eyeshadow topper. It has some pigment to it. It has some oomph to it. So you're not just gonna get straight glitter, which I think is cool. And then I just have to say that this shade is probably one of my favorite Colourpop Super Shock shadows ever. This is the shade Flower Child, and I don't even know how to describe this shade other than like a light white yellow gold, but it's not the typical white yellow shade that you might think of. It has almost a bit of a champagne-y / silvery undertone to it. It's a very neutral shade. It's not too yellowy and warm. I think it's the perfect complement to this shade right here, and I think it's a perfect complement to the palette. These look so pretty on the eyes. I think that Flower Child is more sparkly than In Harmony. That's just my personal opinion, but they are both very beautiful and they do pack a lot of pigment. Overall, the formula of both the Super Shock shadows and the palette, I think, are standard Colourpop formulas. They're really nice, very blendable. The shadows are very soft and don't provide a ton of fallout. They do, however, have some kickback, which I don't mind. It does not bother me, but if you are someone who does not like that, keep that in mind. And the shades blend very nicely on the eyes. I feel like they're not too pigmented to where they're hard to blend out, but they also have some sort of color to them. So they're really workable, and I think that a beginner could work this palette awesome. I think that a pro could work this palette awesome, and anywhere in between. I think it's a really versatile palette, and the same thing with the Super Shock shadows. They're just awesome. There are a few things that, while I love this palette, I do think are not so great about it. The first thing is this shade, and this shade pretty much look all the same on the eyes. And that's really unfortunate because that's a third of the palette right here. So that kind of sucks. However, they do look nice blended together and blended with the other shades. They are just very similar in and of themselves. Also, the color story of this palette is much more muted and much more yellowy red than it looked like in the promo pictures. I feel like this shade looked a lot more like a pinkish, purpley-ish red. I feel like this one looked a little bit different. I just feel like the shades were definitely photoshopped, so that's something to be aware of. The shades in here, while I like them, are not quite what I expected after seeing the promo photos, so keep that in mind. Also, for those that want to be a little nitpicky, there really is only one true yellow in this palette, and it is a sunflower palette, so some may argue that there should be more yellow shades. I personally don't think that there should be, because, I mean, you really only need one true yellow. If you had more yellows in here, it would be a bit repetitive, and you do have the more muted yellowy shades, which I do think are a nice complement. I just think that this shade, and this shade could have been done a little bit better, and I think that Colourpop should have worked on the color scheme just a little bit more. I think that would have been nicer. Also, I'm not sure how I feel about there being a white matte cream, even though I did use it in the look today, and it's a very nice white cream shadow. Let's be honest, everyone has a million of them because they're in literally every palette, so I wish that they had switched this out maybe for like a really light yellow color, like a bright yellowy color, which I think would look really cool and complement this palette nicely, as opposed to just a straight cream color, but that's just me being nitpicky and my personal opinion. I don't really have any cons to say for the Super Shock shadows. I think that these colors both go really well with the collection itself. I really like the packaging with the little sunflowers and like the light yellow shade. I think it's really cool, really nice. The formula of these is awesome. Honestly, I don't have anything bad to say about these. I think that these pair perfectly with the palette and even just on their own. So my final thoughts on this palette is that I do think it is a good palette, especially for $14, which is very affordable for 9 shades. I think that the packaging is really nice and sturdy. I think that the colors are really nice. However, if you have anything that is remotely similar to this at all, I don't think that you need it. If you're a beginner and you really like the color scheme and you don't feel like you have a lot of these shades, I think that you would be perfectly fine grabbing this. But if you're someone like me who has a lot of makeup and has just collected a lot of stuff over the years, I can guarantee you that you can kind of find every one of these shades in your collection. You probably have a true yellow somewhere. You definitely have these shades if you have any Morphe palette at all. And as far as the other lighter browns, while they are fairly unique, and I don't feel like I have too many things similar to them in my collection, they look so similar on the eyes, and they look so similar to just any other light warm brown, I don't really feel like getting the palette for those shades is worth it. The Super Shock shadows, on the other hand, I think are fantastic. I think they're very unique shades. If you like the Super Shock formula and you want to pick them up, I believe you can get them in a bundle for like a cheaper price, or you can just buy one or the other. If I had to recommend one or the other, I would recommend Flower Child, only because I think that it is a bit more wearable for an everyday look. But if you're someone that really likes the more yellowy gold, I think that you will really like In Harmony. Flower Child's just my favorite because it's a little bit more sparkly. So that is it for this video, you guys. I hope you guys like it. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this look, of this palette, if you've tried it, or if you haven't tried it, tell me why you're not going to. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah.